we are going to have a look at an indie game by the name of Trasmoz Legends on PC, released on the 11th of September 2025, developed by Volcano Bytes and published by JanduSoft. It's a retro arcade game with 8-bit style pixel graphics, and the game is also available on the PS4, PS5, Xbox and Nintendo Switch, and the version I am playing here is mostly 1.0, and I think that is also the currently the most recent version, as of the uploading of this video. And I was very kindly sent a key by the publisher, so thank you very much, but to be clear, this is not a paid-for review. All my opinions here are very much my own. And this game is apparently part of the Trasmoz series of games that was released for the 8-bit home computers. Here you can see Curse of Trasmoz running on the ZX Spectrum, released in 2019. The game was apparently also released for the Dragon 32 and 64 and the Amstrad CPC, and it shares some gameplay aspects with Trasmoz Legends. And checking the options in the game, there's not too much we can fiddle with. We can add a CRT filter, which I feel maybe is a little bit harsh. There's two versions of it, but yeah, the game looks great without it. And we can also change bezels if we want to do that. And we've got a couple of other settings as well. And we can also redefine the keyboard controls in the game if we wish to do that. I did initially play a bit using keyboard, but I found it a little bit hard to control, so I hooked up my old Xbox 360 controller, and that works fairly well, although I have to say, if you're going to use a controller, get one that has a really good and solid D-pad. And the basic controls are just directional and jump and attack. And if we start a new game, we get to choose from two different modes, at least initially. There are two more that we need to unlock by finishing the game. But to start with, there's an arcade family mode that's got infinite credits and you get 1-up every 5,000 points. And then we have the arcade classic mode where you only have 5 credits and you get 1-up every 10,000 points. And this is the mode I chose to play in. And I think it's also a little bit more difficult. I can't quite remember exactly what changes, but there's some things that are a little bit trickier in the arcade classic mode. And in the game we control an armored knight armed with a sword that can jump and attack. And as the game starts, we are pretty much immediately joined by the game's antagonist, the skeleton Mutamin, or however you pronounce that. And it will start moving left or right and always try to home into your horizontal position. And will constantly chuck out pumpkins that goes bouncing around and starts going down on the screen and sometimes changing directions and just in general being a pain in the butt. And eventually will also release a ghost that will start homing in on you. And the game is clearly inspired by arcade games such as Bomb Jack and Ghosts and Goblins and yeah, several others. And also got a bit of a NES vibe, or like an early console video game from the 80s. And your task in the game is basically to attack the enemies on screen. There's usually 6 patrolling enemies that are just walking around on various platforms, and as you attack them, they will release a flame that you need to pick up and use to light candles on the screen, one for each enemy. And you can of course hold more than one flame at a time, and if you light the candles in the right order, you will get a bonus multiplier that will give you a juicy score. You can see it says ×2, ×3 and I think up to ×6 for the final candle that you light. So this mechanic feels a bit like it's been inspired by Bomb Jack. And as the game progresses and you reach new levels, you will face different enemies that will have slightly different behaviors and even shoot projectiles at you. Absolute bastards. And you can defend yourself against most of the enemies using your sword. You can even attack the ghost and the pumpkins. The skeleton itself, yeah, he's... you can attack him when you freeze him, because once you pick up a flame, he will freeze. And I think you can attack him for points, and I think he will drop coins as well, because when he freezes he drops a couple of coins that you can grab for extra points, and if you attack him when he's frozen or being stunned, you will get more coins. So it pays off to be a greedy bastard in this game, basically. And I also think every 3rd or 4th level there's going to be a bonus screen where you just basically collect coins while being subjected to a time limit. And the sound effects in the game are really enjoyable. They've got that kind of NES vibe or arcade vibe. And I think they are mimicking a Yamaha YM2203 chip. And I have a definite soft spot for these type of sound effects. I think they work great. Really complements the action. Gameplay is pretty simple and straightforward and a lot of fun. There are a couple of smaller annoyances, and these things are basically just subjective, but I'm going to be talking about them. And one thing that I initially found a bit frustrating with the game is your attack, because as you attack with your sword, you will be pushed forward. And that quite often made me fall off ledges or just fly straight into the open embrace of an enemy. But you will get used to this, and it's also very useful to do this in mid-air if you want to extend your jump, maybe to dodge an enemy or just reach a platform. And also believe that you can use your sword to stop projectiles, and this can be very useful when you run into the tiny skeletons, because they will chuck bones at you that you can just hit with your sword. As you get to higher levels in the game, you will find that they open up much more, and it's much easier to just fall off platforms, and once you reach the bottom of the screen you will reappear at the top, and gravity is just a little bit too high. You will accelerate very quickly when you're in freefall mode, and it's a bit tricky controlling the knight. And you will quite often find yourself just falling on top of enemies and getting a little bit frustrated. It's not a big deal, but yeah, it takes some time getting used to it. And I'm not a fan of the ladders in the game either, because when you push up on a ladder you will automatically climb to the top or the bottom if you're climbing down. You can't stop halfway, which you can normally do, say, in Donkey Kong and many other platformers. And I do find this a little bit annoying. I would have liked to just be able to stop halfway on a ladder and just wait out an enemy, or have more control. And this also becomes a problem if you have a controller with a somewhat imprecise D-pad, because it's very easy to climb a ladder when you don't want to if you just manage to hit diagonals unintentionally. And I'm not a big fan of the spikes that randomly appear as you grab flames. They will flicker before they materialize, so you have a moment to just find out where they are. But yeah, I'm not a huge fan of it. I would rather not have them in the game. Find them more frustrating than fun, to be honest. But again, not a huge issue. You kind of learn where they appear and just try and avoid them altogether. Otherwise, I have to say this is a solid arcade game. It's a lot of fun, has some really nice graphics, maybe a little bit tiny, because it's quite easy to lose track of the knight and just confuse him with something else, one of the enemies and such. So yeah, the game is also quite fast, which doesn't make it any easier keeping track of things. Again, the high gravity doesn't help either. Sometimes I just find myself, I'm getting lost when I fall beyond the bottom of the screen and then reappear at the top, and I'm not quite sure where I'll end up, because there's so much movement going on. And also the difficulty is something that I found a little bit frustrating, because the game does get quite hard. There's a lot going on, and the stages, as I said before, gets more and more open, and it's more and more difficult navigating around them. It's not insanely difficult, but it's definitely a challenge. And that's also what keeps the game fun, that it challenges you to get better, which is perfectly possible to do. So if you like classic arcade games and a bit of a challenge, maybe something along the lines of Donut Dodo, another kind of similar arcade game that I really enjoyed, I would say I prefer Donut Dodo over this one, because it's got tighter gameplay and also somewhat better controls, I feel. But this is still a lot of fun, so if you're into challenging arcade games, absolutely have a look at this one. I'm not sure if there's a demo. I think the game costs about 7 or 8 euros currently, and if it's on sale, it's yeah, definitely go for it if you're into this kind of stuff. And there's always family mode. That's going to make things easier for you if you want to complete it. With infinite credits, this is going to be a lot easier. And there's also a simultaneous 2-player mode that I think could be a lot of fun. I haven't had time to test that yet. So I would say the price is pretty much right for this game, and especially if it's on sale, yeah, check it out. And with that, I'm just going to say thanks for watching, and hope you found this review informative. And as always, hope to catch you in the next video. Cheers!